All right. Well, hello, good afternoon, everyone. And I'm Dr. Renee Dorn, Director of Alumni Relations for the Graduate School of Education and Psychology. And I'd like to welcome you to our second installment of Jammy Online. And for those of you who joined us on April 22nd for the first installment, welcome back. And if this is your first time joining us, well, then welcome to the Jammy session. Let me start by giving a quick overview of what Jammy Online is. And Jammy actually is a Swahili term for community. And the Jammy Online, which was created by our GSEP Executive Director of Career Services, Yas Hardaway. This is a community designed to provide up-to-date insight on career trends in education and psychology, while building a professional network of students, alumni, and industry leaders, and providing a virtual opportunity for our students and alumni to connect with our more established alumni and leaders in various fields. That's why we are so excited to have the guest speakers we have for you to hear today. Now, before you hear from our guest speakers, let me have the Career Services and Alumni Relations teams introduce themselves to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Sofia Enriquez and I am the Alumni Relations Analyst for GSEP.
Hi everyone, I'm Yas Hardaway, Executive Director of Career Services at GSEP, and welcome.
Hi everybody, I'm Nadine Surratt. I'm the Assistant Director of Career Education and Counseling at GSEP.
Hi everyone, my name is Frania Arroyo, Career Services Specialist at GSEP.
Hi everyone, my name is Io Tejada. I am a graduate assistant at GSEP Career Services and I am in the Masters of Arts in Psychology program.
Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Parsa Pekar and I'm a graduate assistant at GSEP Career Service team.
So thank you to our Career Services and Alumni Relations teams for putting such hard work into today's webinar. So for the webinar today, we have certain outcomes that we expect for you to get out of the information that we're going to provide to you today. First, we want you to gain more insight into how the current health crisis is impacting leading tech companies. We want you to learn how to find remote and/or flexible employment. And we want you to find out how you can utilize Pepperdine's network to promote your business and possibly connect with mentoring opportunities. Now, during the webinar, if you have any questions for the speakers or for one of us who are facilitating, please put your questions in the chat box, and that will be monitored throughout the webinar. So let's go ahead and get started, and let me introduce you to our first two speakers. Now, the first speaker we have is Daniel Kim. He is based in the Bay Area, and he is an enterprise relationship manager and business partners leader for LinkedIn. Our second speaker will be Patricia Davis, and she is currently a manager at Amazon's Seattle campus, where she is focused on delivery operations for the United States and Canada. So let's welcome Daniel and Patricia. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Patricia. How are both of you today?
Good.
Great, thanks.
Good, good. Now, I just told everyone what you do for your respective companies, for LinkedIn and for Amazon, but why don't you just give us a little more detail as to what your role is within each organization? So Daniel, why don't you go ahead and I'll start with you.
Sure, absolutely. So again, good to meet you all. Great to be part of the Pepperdine Alumni Network, and glad to connect. As mentioned, I work for LinkedIn, and I work with high-growth, large enterprise companies, primarily advising, partnering with chief human resource officers and CEOs on workforce planning, learning and development, and employee retention strategies, in addition to employer branding.
That's wonderful. How long have you worked for the company?
So I've been there for a little under a year. My background is a bit varied, so I believe hopefully it's interesting. I come from both an Air Force veteran background, did 10 years there. Also worked in hardware engineering for a lot of pretty large electronics component manufacturers as a global and regional sales leader prior.
Wow, you're right. Varied background. But that's excellent. That's excellent because those of us listening, we all have varied backgrounds as well.
Absolutely.
So that's good to know. That's good to know. So Patricia, tell us a little bit about your role within your organization and how long you've been there.
Yes, so thanks for having me. I really appreciate it being incorporated into this event. So again, I'm Patricia Davis, work for Amazon. I live in Seattle. I've been with Amazon just under 3 years. So August 7th will be my 3-year mark. Gosh, can't believe it already. So again, for the past 2 of those years, I've been working with Amazon Logistics, specifically with the new program where franchise owners or entrepreneurs who want to start a small business can actually start their own company, create their own fleet of drivers. And these are the folks that actually wear these shirts and deliver packages to your door. So I train those owners who in turn go and hire the drivers that deliver the packages. This is a new segmented area, it is competing with UPS and FedEx. So this has been a big deal for Amazon. And it's been great to be a part of the program since it started in 2018.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. That's excellent. And yes, we all, I think, get a lot of packages from Amazon.
Yes, I do too.
Now, for both of you, what changes have you observed since you've been in your role?
Oh, Daniel, do you want to go first? Or?
Sure, absolutely. Clearly, COVID-19 is the ginormous elephant in the room.
Right.
So the big shift, with a lot of the companies I advise is they've clearly shifted into a different mindset. In some cases, unfortunately, as you've read in the news, there have been a lot of layoffs or furloughs. So the conversations have shifted from how do we hire the best and the brightest and, draw attention to us, and that talent, to, in some cases, the shift is, we're going through an unfortunate hiring freeze. We do love our employees. How do we genuinely, with empathy and compassion, show that while this is a path we have to go down,
right,
want you to return, or we still want to be your number one choice when all of this passes. So the strategy discussions have definitely taken a big shift for some companies. And on the flip side, for certain companies that are surprisingly thriving or doing well through all this, the strategy discussions are how do we all the more so be an employer of choice without being seen as an opportunistic organization that's trying to take it situation. So really trying to genuinely craft an organizational mission to fulfill those goals.
Oh, wow. That's something that probably a lot of us have not really thought about, but that's good for you to let us know that. Thank you. Patricia, what about with Amazon?
Yeah, this connects really well with what Daniel just said. Amazon has been seen as one of those companies who we're definitely thriving. We've been hiring hundreds of thousands, getting probably over that at this point, over 100,000 people during this pandemic. So we're some folks are seeing us as more opportunistic, but it's just the nature of what we're offering the service, right? This is a service that a lot of folks definitely need right now. And we're doing our best to ensure that everyone's capable of utilizing our services the best way they can. But in general, Amazon's been always really focused on innovation. That's nothing new with the pandemic. It's just now there are different facets of our innovation, right? So this is where we are. So Amazon, again, has always been a virtual forward-looking company. Now we're definitely have no choice but to be virtual in some segments that were not before. So that's one area. So specifically for my team of trainers, I have 9 people that work for me across the US, right? So they're actually in the field training those training those delivery owners to hire drivers. Now we had to flip our training over to being virtual, and our training is definitely a hands-on training in a delivery station so that owners know what's going on. So it's been a challenge trying to make something that's not really meant to be virtual into virtual, right? And then also forward-looking, kind of what do we do now? This is the new normal. So what do? We keep offering our virtual services, and then larger for Amazon, how big is our delivery going to keep growing, right? Like after the pandemic, are folks still going to want the same amount of volume and deliveries that they're getting now, or is it going to kind of get back to a steady state? So there's a lot of different aspects and facets to what Amazon's strategy is, and in particularly what my focus is for my team in training these franchise owners who do the deliveries.
Right. So you're talking about franchise owners. So how would one become a franchise owner at this point in time?
Yeah, and it's pretty similar. So for this program after like a Chick-fil-A, right? You know, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, these are the places that most of those places and Starbucks are owned by a franchise who are buying into a larger corporate entity, right? So specifically for Amazon, we're a little bit different. You're not paying Amazon to be a part of the company. You're applying to be an entrepreneur to partner with us. So we very much focus on partnership, right? You definitely want to make sure you have capital that you can support the needs of setting up your business, but you're not writing a check to Amazon at all. You just got to show that, you know, you have, you know, some liquid assets that you can focus on, you know, in terms of the background checks for your drivers, you know, make sure you can like do the drug test. But in general, to your question, it's you're going to apply, you're going to be interviewed, you're going to be screened, you're going to be put through a loop the same way I was based on Amazon principles. And, you know, if you're welcomed into the program, the goal is to get you 2 full weeks of training. And one of those weeks is my Pacific weeks where I actually run you through the operations of a business. So it is definitely a 10 to 11 week onboarding process that includes a lot of hands-on training and incorporation to Amazon culture.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very detailed.
I know, sorry.
No, that's a good thing. That's good for us to know. So with Daniel, with LinkedIn, so what were some of the changes that have been made within LinkedIn regarding, you know, this pandemic? What's been going on there?
Sure, absolutely. And Patricia hit on one of them. I think we're all dealing with it. With all your beautiful backgrounds, I think a lot of us, or pretty much most folks, are working from home. So LinkedIn was, I'm based here in the Bay, was one of the early adopters prior to any public mandates to work from home. So I've been going a little stir crazy at times, but I've been a few months now and going on a few more. So that's been a big one. So, you know, we've got a couple thousand employees here based in the Bay and Sunnyvale and San Francisco. So the work from home transition has been relatively smooth, having said all that. In terms of changes, we do see that being a potential long-term change. I think you've probably read in the news similar things. Even as we return, in quotes, to the office, most likely a lot of folks will not return and will continue to work from home just until they're comfortable returning. You're going to see a lot of them, like we're seeing with our real estate footprint. We are going to change the way offices are laid out for when that time comes. So I think that will be semi-permanent. We'll see for how long. So that's a big change. We've also seen, kind of, as I mentioned in the earlier intro, that, you know, the landscape has changed with how we partner with, you know, various enterprise companies. We have seen, and this could be interesting for a lot of folks on the call, a shift from, you know, aggressive hiring, though that's still happening in certain cases, like Amazon and some other big players, and but also a shift to focusing on learning and development, you know, which ties well into Pepperdine's mission. A lot of realizing they need to develop the folks that they do have. They want to make that an attractive selling point to future employees, as well as that, hey, when you come aboard, we're going to develop you. You know, we're going to find, and even if we don't find a spot for you in home, we're going to train you to, we're hiring your talent, not necessarily your resume purely, and your values and et cetera. So I think companies are realizing that they need to be a little more nimble with how they do that. And so LinkedIn that's always been a focus for LinkedIn, but all the more so we're practicing it internally and externally with our partners. So that's how I feel them.
That's interesting. You mentioned learning and what areas specifically is LinkedIn looking for within possibly new employees or even the companies that you're working with? What areas in learning and development are they focusing on?
Sure. So to start really broad and not to get into lingos and stuff, but LinkedIn has always focused on being a student always, or having a growth mindset. So it's really pushing that into action, you know. So for certain teams and roles at LinkedIn, the activity has dropped off a lot. So they're not able to do what they've traditionally done on a daily basis. So they've learned to just focus on, hey, how else can we help the organization? And LinkedIn has been great about, okay, let's use your talent in another realm. You know, if you're being underutilized here, we see that a lot with roles at LinkedIn where you were actively working with, let's say, even the way you onboard people.
Right.
I know Patricia hit on onboarding as well. We've shifted, you know, hey, how do we develop you from a remote setting, you know, and how can we use folks as remote onboarders that traditionally didn't do that role?
Okay.
Coming to LinkedIn, if you can show that you have that nimble ability, like, hey, look at my background, I can quickly jump and learn new things, even though that's not my wheelhouse. That's something that's very attractive to us.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know, because I know a lot of people, like we said in the beginning, we have varied backgrounds.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that at least LinkedIn or some of the companies that you're working with are interested in those varied backgrounds, showing that we are willing and able to learn different things.
Absolutely. And I don't want to dominate, but I will share one really high growth, very hot automotive company. They're doing really well in this environment. That's a big focus for them, is that, hey, we're hiring talent, pure talent. We can train you once you come aboard, but we're just looking for a certain mindset, and that's what's important. So
that's excellent. No, that's very good to know. That's great to know. Thank you. Patricia, what about with Amazon? What are some of those areas? You mentioned innovation. Mm-hmm. And you're doing a lot of virtual training, mm-hmm. But what other areas have been affected?
Well, specifically, I think for my team is also, and then I'll kind of get into some of the broader other segments of Amazon, but with logistics team, we have some spinoffs of this delivery service provider program. If I didn't mention it, that's what the program's called. The owners are called DSPs, so delivery service provider. So now we have spinoffs. Now we have heavy bulky. Now we have that's AMXL. So we're also looking at areas that are more concentrated, high density areas. So we're figuring out how can we deliver to those places in New York City and Chicago where our large blue vans you see with a smile on it may not be able to fit. Right. So we're looking at how we can nimbly get, owners to hire folks and what kind of transportation can they kind of squeeze through. So that's actually coming on the pipeline. I don't think I can talk about it right now, but you'll probably see something new coming in the next couple of months. So it's been forcing Amazon to really get into the pockets of deliveries to accommodate everyone, right? We also have rural areas, those folks who want to kind of be off the grid. We have folks in the mountains, so we're delivering in those kind of areas as well. So it's been forcing us to kind of take our standard innovation and even get more savvy with it to make sure we're meeting the delivery needs of everyone across the US. And again, we're expanding to other areas like Canada. They actually are launching their first site today under this model. So it's super exciting. Other parts of Amazon as well, LNTD, as we call it, Learning, Training, and Development, that group of folks, that falls under every team in Amazon. Every part of Amazon has a learning, training, and development team, right? And they may have some spin-offs to that too. But AWS is a huge one right now. AWS, they have their own certification team, their own training team, the same way my org has various training teams. I'm not under LNTD, but I do training. So I'm a spinoff, right? So I'm not a dedicated trainer. But in some of those roles, I'm interacting with people who used to be teachers. I'm working with a young lady in my sister program, AMXL. She's me of that program, and she was a former high school teacher, right? Someone who was in college, a college professor. So I've seen a lot of folks in the past year or two who are segueing into Amazon from academia and wanting to kind of bring some of that knowledge and discipline into some of the training of professionals within the company as well. So it's been very interesting, especially right now. Amazon, is hiring. There's always tons of opportunity. We've always been pretty flexible virtual, but even now more so, Amazon's definitely more open to hiring people virtually, onboarding them virtually. And I do sense that a lot of roles that they didn't expect us to be virtual will end up being that long-term.
You mentioned AWS. What is that? What does that stand for?
Amazon Web Services.
Amazon, okay.
Yeah.
both of you have a connection to Pepperdine because Daniel, you're an alum, and Patricia, you are currently in the doctoral program.
Yes.
So what was it, or what is it that you have learned or are currently learning in the Pepperdine programs that you have brought to your positions? So
Sure.
Patricia, you can go
Okay,
first.
I can go. Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I started this program fairly shortly after joining Amazon. Yeah, but a lot of things were already in place at Amazon. It's just weird. Like I'm using Qualtrics at school. I'm using Qualtrics at Amazon. You know, I'm learning, but the great thing is in my cohort, I've been learning about Google Classroom, other avenues that we don't really use at Amazon. I'm actually incorporating that into my training. So it's been really great to be, and I'm in the virtual, like I said, learning technologies program for the EDD program. So learning from a lot of the folks in my class who are focused on education as principals and administrators and teachers, kind of learning, you know, how to make sure I'm engaging my trainers, and they're engaging their DSPs, their training. So I've been taking a lot of what I'm learning from my classmates in my cohort and trying to incorporate that in the classroom. But on a high level, it's great to see that the same things I'm using at Amazon, Pepperdine is using, focusing on surveys and NPS and Qualtrics and all these different things. So it's been a great marriage so far.
Oh, wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you. Daniel, what about with you in the program that you graduated from?
Absolutely. So I graduated from GSEP, got my master's in education. It's been hugely beneficial to me throughout my entire career, as varied as it's been. As an Air Force officer, you know, I led a lot of training and development for the squadrons I was a part of, and I used that master's, you know, very regularly. You know, and whether when you're building curriculum for kids or adults, it's still the same process,
Right.
you know. And so I found that it made me a much better instructor in the Air Force. When I got out, similar deal. When I was training and building up teams in the hardware engineering space, it was hugely beneficial. It's the exact same skill set. I love how Patricia mentioned the online learning component. So when I went through the program, Pepperdine was really known for pushing that online learning
Right.
before it really took off, you know, everywhere else. So I'm pretty proud of it. And so I feel like it's been hugely beneficial in a really practical way. Just to you realize you're an educator in all realms of life. You know, that's one thing
That's
that
true.
emphasized. You're not just a teacher, you're an educator. And I love that mindset. And I think you can carry that to corporate life in every regard.
Oh, that's good. That's excellent. Now, one last question before we get into the Q&A portion. If someone is interested in working at LinkedIn or Amazon, what job opportunities do you know of right now, and how would you recommend that they pursue these opportunities? So I'll start with Daniel this time.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, please, first thing I encourage you to do is just look up LinkedIn's values and culture. You know, make sure that that's something that fits for you. I think that goes without saying, but please take a look there. Take a look at our job listing. You know, we've transitioned to a remote hiring setting, just like Patricia mentioned. I think that's the norm now, and we're pretty comfortable with that. There's a whole range of roles. You know, we've got multiple business verticals from the talent solution side, where, you know, you've got the learning side, and then we have something called Glint, which is more employee engagement. You know, how does a company gauge the health and wellness, you know, and the mental wellness of, you know, their employees, and that's a really hot business unit right now.
And you said it's called what again? What was that one more time?
GLINT, Glint.
Okay.
And it's a very healthy part of the org now, so I'd encourage you to take a look there. So just a broad range of roles, from engineering to data center builds to customer success. The gamut. This is going to sound silly, but the number one thing I encourage you to do is network, just like you're doing now. It goes without saying. Networking is just the number one thing you can do. I advise a lot of transitioning veterans, and anyone that reaches out to me, I will gladly meet up and talk. And that's the number one thing I do. You know, I'm not discouraging you from cold applying, but you really want to network. Just everything goes. Use this Pepperdine network when you can, or whatever an additional networks you have. Please connect with me after this. Don't be shy. and happy to help or at least direct you the best I can.
Wonderful. Thank you, Daniel and Patricia.
Yes.
Someone is interested. How
Yeah.
can they work for Amazon?
Yeah, so even so I'll start on a broad level. Of course, there's
Okay.
Amazon Careers, Amazon.com. Check out we have a plethora of just job openings. I mean, especially on the delivery side right now because of the pandemic, there's so many different areas. But of course, in just regular life, pre-COVID, there's always roles open. So I talked about AWS. I talked about, of course, logistics. Those are really big ones. But of course, there's just customer service organizations. We have so many different orgs, Amazon Fashion. There's so many different areas across Amazon, whether it's kind of just working with customers firsthand or on the technical side. There's just so many areas that touch learning and education if that's kind of your focus area. And my biggest recommendation is just to keep your LinkedIn profile really up to date. Amazon has a ton of recruiters across the company. That's how I never applied to Amazon. I was living in Georgia at the time. There wasn't really an office near me. I knew of one, but it wasn't really my focus area. I was recruited by Amazon via LinkedIn. And then I was moved to Seattle. So keep your LinkedIn profile because they always have recruiters who are definitely, we don't use third party kind of recruitment. Everything is usually mostly done in-house. So they have an army of recruiters that are always looking at LinkedIn profiles and will reach out because that's literally how I got into Amazon. I was kind of more or less happy. I was at NCR in Atlanta, Georgia, a global company as well. And I was kind of just rolling there and I was happy with that. And this opportunity came along and I went ahead. But other areas like Daniel was saying, military, Amazon recruits military heavily. Even for the program I'm in, we actually give you $10,000 bonus if you're former military who are, you left on good standing, and you can become an entrepreneur and that pretty much covers your startup cost.
Oh, wow.
For your franchise as one example. And we have fellowship programs for those who are transitioning out of military. I was actually trained to interview new owners, DSPs, franchise owners, and I was trained on how to interview military backgrounds. So I understand what their job titles, how that translates to real life. So Amazon puts a lot of focus on making sure, and military spouses as well. Don't want to forget those strong ladies and gentlemen out there who are married to our military. So they really focus on hiring military spouses and military transitioning. So definitely if you have that background, you have a leg up on a lot of folks as well. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many opportunities. Just, of course, network, keep your resume and your profile up to date, as much information on there as possible, and definitely look at all different areas. Of course, we do have an education area as well. They have a career path program for those who are kind of, or some of our warehouse folks and call center folks who may not have degrees. We're actually retraining them and we're actually giving opportunities to go back to school, and we're doing in-house training for them too. That's a whole separate initiative. So there's a lot of things like kind of get them more opportunities for other trade jobs if they don't want to be in a call center for the rest of their life. So there's a lot of different areas. Just don't just focus on one area or one particular thing, and always just keep looking. They're always refreshing job updates and things like that. So that's just my perspective on it.
That's excellent. Boy, I tell you, both of you gave us quite a bit of excellent information today. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Patricia. Yaz, do we have any questions that anyone has?
Yes, thank you both. That was very insightful. There are some questions. I'm going to organize them into kind of similar categories. So the first one is around networking. You both mentioned networking. Can you talk about what that looks like successfully? Maybe break it down or give an example of someone who reached out or networked with you and how that made it a positive impression, just so somebody can understand what that means.
Okay. Well, I can take that one. I get outreach a lot. Not to say a lot from Pepperdine, but just in general life. I have a lot of folks that reach out to me. I'm active on LinkedIn. I think to be successful, there's a way to do it, right? The best way is just to be courteous and not say, hey, I want a job at Amazon. Can you help me? I mean, there's a way to kind of nicely kind of give a little bit background about yourself, maybe find a common connection, or did you just find me because you saw where I work, right? I think there's a nice way to kind of build a little bit of a relationship, right? And kind of the why behind why you want to work there versus just a company name. Daniel mentioned knowing a company's values. If you've kind of already done some research on the company, I'm going to pay a little bit more attention versus I saw this job. Can you give me this job? Like kind of not how it works, because specifically for me, being in such a large company, I may not have pull in so many different segments in the company, because the company has like 400,000 or 500,000 people at this point, if that makes sense. So I'm going to probably do a little bit more due diligence if you're kind of starting off with like a nice intro and the why, and kind of understanding what Amazon's leadership principles are. That is something you're going to be interviewed on anyway. So if you're already coming to me showing me that you took the time to really understand that, it's going to be a better for me to match you with someone and take that extra time to really find out who I can connect you with.
Just to tack on to that, I love what Patricia said. I think in addition, or not in addition, as an addendum to that, it's you gotta be sincere. So when you shoot out you've all received probably in mails or whatever it is, and when it's a form that you can tell it was shotgunned out to everybody, it's not the nicest feeling. You don't feel special. But if you can latch on to even one thing, like Patricia said, that you clearly did some research, even not saying you got to spend an hour doing that, but that goes a long way to the recipient, you know. And to add to that, informational interviews are great too. If you don't know, that's okay, but be genuine about, hey, especially in this environment, do you have 10 minutes to jump on a call? I know I'm a stranger, but I would just love to hear your thoughts on X, Y, or Z. Nothing attached, no demands related to it. I'm not going to request a referral right away necessarily, but I would just like to learn more. And there's something in human nature. If you're asked genuinely for help, I swear the vast majority of folks are more than willing to be like, sure thing. So that's a key piece of advice I see go awry at times, where like I asked for help, I got none. It's like, well, let me look at your message, and it's like, well, yeah, I might say no to that too, you know. So there you go.
So doing your homework and being sincere and asking for advice instead of demanding or asking for a job right away makes a different impression. There was a follow-up question regarding LinkedIn in particular. If you are currently employed and you don't want your employer to know that you're looking, can you talk a little bit about the privacy settings and how you navigate that?
Sure. When you go to your profile, and this is a common concern, very understandable, what you want to do is go to your profile and click on you're open to new opportunities. And then when you do that, it will give you the option to say, do you want to basically mask this from your employers or people at your company? And LinkedIn is pretty solid about that data tracking. You know, they value your privacy. So, unless there's some weird loophole your manager is posing as someone else, which is really almost impossible to do, yeah, you'll be pretty protected in 99.5% of cases. But make sure you click on that you do not want it visible to your own company.
Thank you. And then one final question. Daniel, you mentioned Glent, and Patricia, you mentioned LNTD, and these might be common areas that our students and alumni are interested in. Can you talk about, if you have not worked in those areas before, how would you market yourself if you're making a career change? And you have maybe the educational background and the transferable skills, but on paper, it doesn't show that you have the relevant experience.
Yeah, I can take that one. So I think I'm a great example of that. I didn't come from a traditional learning background. I was not an educator or a teacher or anything of the sort, right? However, I worked for companies in the past where I was always leading virtual, right? I was working for McKinsey & Company back in 2006, and I was already working with virtual teams. My team would consist of people in Europe, time zones, different things like that, right? And new team members, having to kind of onboard and train them into kind of some of that realm. So I think on my resumes and future positions I've had since then, or positions that I added on, coming to Amazon, I was able to capitalize on what I did. So that I was the single-threaded leader for onboarding, right? Teaching new team members. I talked about my virtual background I had from way back, and they're going to be able to pick out and understand what's translatable, right? You don't have to kind of oversell it, but just naturally talk about things you did. So kind of creating some new content for other teams. If I have a particular area that I have owned, right? Focusing, let's say, on finance or something, and I was a guru in that. If there's a team member that needs to learn that, I've created some kind of mock trainings or some PowerPoints, things like that. A recruiter or a hiring manager can see that this is translatable and they can do this on a larger scale. LNTD isn't always being that person who is in front of the learner, right? I have trainers in the field. I rarely go in and present. Sometimes I pop in and I'll start running a presentation myself, but I'm on the back end doing program, kind of being the strategy and the framework for the education piece. So there's LNTD can be a lot of different things: the architecture, the structure, the framework, or the person who's in front of the learner, making sure. So just kind of make sure you understand for that company, maybe some of what their needs are, and then try to market yourself in that space and just capitalize on things you've done, and folks will understand what makes sense for the company.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel?
Very well said. I guess the only things I guess I would add, it would be, like Patricia said, if you look at your backgrounds, you've all been involved in things, you've built projects, you might not have framed them in the realm of learning and development or that. I bet you have, if you were leading a team of any sort, how did you develop a weekly cadence with how you engage with your team? That didn't exist before. It may not have been, you didn't create the software, to actually engage with folks, but still it shows that your mindset has been in that realm, that you've prioritized that. Same with training or learning, whether or not you have direct experience doing that, just think about your personal life even, if you can really show that, no, I saw a problem and here's how I addressed it, and I formalized the process. How did you formalize it? I think any hiring manager, if they're being sincere, they'll be like, okay, I get that. If anything, it could be more impressive where you didn't have those resources in place, but you implemented that. I think that goes a long way. And so I think it goes to the general point, always have a good narrative, a genuine narrative, but there's so many things in your life that you've done, depending on what you're trying to address, you could look at it from various different angles that are all true. So just think about, I never thought of that as a learning and development thing that I did, but actually I did create that new process. Oh, the team did feel more engaged after that. I was just worried about the morale. I didn't think about anything else, but you were doing employee engagement, so as an example. So that's what I encourage folks, even folks that are going for their first gig, just think about, what have I done in my personal life too?
Yeah, and I just want to add, not to take too much time, that's perfect, like what you just said, right? Amazon looks for problem solvers. I think most companies do, right? You saw a need and you quickly went in. Sometimes you have to make it a project. Sometimes you have to be scrappy or quick and dirty, whatever you want to call it. And you kind of went in and you saw an issue and you made something work. And if it's a short-term solution versus long-term, if you tell that narrative appropriately, Amazon can connect the dots and everything else they need to know that you're capable of doing what they need.
Love it. Well said.
That's great. Yeah. So it sounds like taking the time to understand your audience and what the problems are, and then really clarifying your narrative and being able to identify your transferable skills and producing evidence that demonstrate those skills is really important in telling your story, and one that's compelling.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One last thing, and I know I'm—
Yes, please.
So I've done a ton of interviews. So I interview a lot for my organization and outside of my org. And one thing that happens a lot, STAR method. That is one thing that comes up a lot. STAR method, understanding Amazon's leadership principles, and then also just ensuring that you tell the story from the aspect of what you did, necessarily what your team did. That's a big thing that comes up a lot when we do our debriefs. We want to hear what you did specifically, not just in general sense what your entire team did. So we know if you're capable of kind of leading something yourself in STAR and all that stuff. I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
That's great. No, I just, in the chat feature, I just defined STAR for those who don't know: situation, task, action, and result. So it's a great method for responding to behavioral questions. And I appreciate what you said, that to own what it is that you did, to be able to show that you have the skills and that you made the impact as part of the process. That's great.
The beauty of the STAR method is that I know a lot of folks, understandably, you're humble. You don't want to feel like you're boasting. But with Patricia's STAR point, it's just your results and your actions. They speak, but it is what you did, so you can own it and be proud of it.
Sure, that's great. You have to produce evidence, so that's great. Well, Daniel and Patricia, thank you so much for your insight. This was so helpful, and you just gave kind of the big picture of what's happening right now and the impact of the crisis, but also what people can actively be doing right now to help themselves move forward in their career. So thank you so much for joining us.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you both. Thank you so much.
Take care, be safe, be happy.
Thank you. So I'd now like to invite Tony Frana. Tony, you ready to step on stage? So thank you so much. Tony is from Flex Jobs. She's a career coach and coaching team lead with Flex Jobs. So from my understanding, Flex Jobs has been around since 2007, right before the 2008 recession. So can you start off by telling us a little bit about what are some key learnings that the organization really came to as a result of the previous recession, given the talks about a recession coming up because of the crisis today?
Sure, absolutely. But first, if I can, I want to say thanks to Daniel for his service. I'm an Air Force family as well. And Patricia, I love talking. That was such a very wonderful resource heavy conversation from you guys. And I loved hearing about transferable skills and career transitions, which I talk a lot about with my clients. So thank you for that. But back to the question at hand. So thank you for letting me take that second to do that. During the last recession, Flex Jobs continued to see a rise in remote job listings year after year, even as companies and on-site jobs were sort of contracting. I think with the situation that we're faced with today, we don't know exactly what will happen, but we've seen a steady growth in remote jobs over the last 15 years. We did see an increase, a 3% increase in job listings on the Flex Jobs site in March over February of this year. So that was right at the beginning of this crisis. So, at a minimum, the remote jobs so far have been holding steady or maybe even slightly increasing. And as we kind of listen to Daniel and Patricia talk, a lot of positions that were previously in an office are now virtual. And I think companies are sort of pivoting and trying to figure out, how to make some of these changes long lasting as it seems like it might be needed for the immediate future. So that's where we're at. That's what we're finding. And we're continually updating those pieces of information on a monthly basis on our site.
That's great. So the trend was already in motion, and you're now starting to see it accelerate now. Thank you. Tony, can you talk a little bit about who the target audience is for Flex Jobs, both from the job seeker's perspective and the employer perspective?
Yeah, so our site is, mainly focused on helping job seekers, kind of find and pinpoint those high quality job listings that offer remote options or some type of workplace flexibility. Working remotely tends to be the number one flexible benefit that people are looking for, just as a little side note there. But all of the jobs and all of the companies that are listed on our site are pre-screened. There are no scams on our site. There are no commission-only jobs. Some of those high pay, gig style, quick jobs, they're not on our site. Suspicious business opportunities, so you don't have to worry about that. In terms of job seekers, we tend to work with people who are experienced professionals looking to transition maybe into a more flexible or remote environment. The companies that we work with are looking to offer and are offering professional level positions with high quality, career progression that offer some level of flexibility. So I've been working remotely since about 2007, used Flex Jobs as a member for years and found some remote jobs that way. When I shifted my career from working in office to wanting to work remotely, I wanted to find a way to find those professional opportunities, and that's what you'll find on the Flex Jobs site.
That's great. Thank you. And do you mind taking a few minutes to do a demonstration of the site so people can see how to best navigate?
Yes, I would love to do that. All right. So how does this look?
Great.
Perfect. All right. So Flex Jobs is actually a subscription site. So I'm going to walk you through the resources that are available for free to anybody that comes to flexjobs.com. So the first place that I would like to point people to is our job search articles and resources section, We have a very extensive blog on our site that has over 4,000 articles about how to find and identify flexible and remote jobs. You can look at the latest articles. We have a call out to resources for the current situation with COVID-19, or you can be more specific. And if you're specifically looking for a job but want to know what to include in a cover letter, we have other ways and ways to narrow down your search on the blog. A great resource that's available to everybody is this How to Find a Remote Job and Start Working from Home guide. So this will go into a lot of detail for you to put together an action plan for your job search and your remote job search. So it will help you understand the remote job market, including common jobs and companies that are hiring, health and medical jobs, IT jobs, education and training, customer service representatives. Those are some of the most common job titles and job categories where we get a lot of job postings. But all of that's in the guide, and that is also for free. One other area that I love to share with my clients is our research companies arm of the site. We have curated a list of over 50,000 companies who offer professional, flexible, and remote jobs, or some level of work flexibility. 80% of the jobs on our site have a remote component to them. The other 20% have some level of workplace flexibility. They may be on-site opportunities, but they may have an alternative schedule or a part-time schedule or something like that, something that is sort of outside of the realm of having to show up at 8 and leave at 5 o'clock or something like that to a building. So we have curated these lists of companies. You can search by name. You can search by company category. And what I love to share with my clients is if you're looking for a specific category of jobs and you also want to focus on some companies, maybe the values, the culture, the mission of the organization is really important to you, as we heard from our previous speakers, you can either look at the top 100 companies for flexible jobs. We release this list every year, but we also have curated lists for different job categories. To include medical jobs, nonprofit, flexible, remote jobs. So you can look at these lists and it gives you a way to sort of narrow down that high number of 50,000 companies and really hone in on what your focus is. And then you can select a company. We've linked the company's website as well as sort of given a brief summary and overview of the company. And all of these things you can see and take in as part of a public search on the FlexJobs site. You will also be able to see what past jobs have been offered, so you can get a feel for what types of remote and flexible jobs a company offers. And even still, if you are not a subscribed member to FlexJobs, you can get a sense for what opportunities are out there in remote work by doing a quick search on our site. So these are the advanced search options that you can take advantage of just to run a cursory search for seeing what is out there in a certain area. So if I do this really quickly, I'm just going to type in the word therapist. I have a hard time sometimes talking and typing, so bear with me.
That's okay.
We do have a work schedule filter. So if you'd like to be full-time, part-time, you can even select a flexible or alternative schedule. I'm going to select part-time and a remote work level. We've added a remote during pandemic feature right now. Not everybody wants to work remotely, but there are some opportunities. This is where you would be able to find companies who have sort of put together some positions that are remote during the pandemic with the intention of maybe going back into the office at some point. But I'm going to select 100% remote work for this. You can really fill in as many of these filters as you would like. Sometimes I tell my clients, don't fill in all the filters because you may narrow yourself too much, and it's good to see and get a feel for what's out there, especially when you're using a keyword like therapist or something that's highly specialized. So let's go ahead and look at this search list. There are 13 jobs with the title of therapist or the word therapist somewhere in the job posting that are available to people who live in Malibu, California. And I'm not sure if everybody knows, it was news to me years ago, but most jobs that are remote, 95% of them do have a location requirement. And to me, that sort of seems counterintuitive sometimes because you think, well, I'm working remotely, I can really do it from anywhere. But occasionally companies want people to be in a certain time zone or geographically close in case they have in-person meetings or they require travel. A lot of times companies also are not able to pay employees in different states because there are different state tax laws. That's kind of a mouthful. But companies have to go through sort of a registration process in order to be able to set up to hire employees in different states. So always search with a location so anything that's not available to you is filtered out. I know that was a sidebar, so thank you. When you're on the site and you click on a job, if you're not a FlexJobs member, you can see the brief job description. You won't have a link to apply to the job without having a login for FlexJobs, so that won't be available to you. But let's go ahead and let me just show you some of the differences in membership if you decide that you do want to have a FlexJobs account. So if we go back to our search list, and let me just retype all of these things here: part-time, select remote work level, 100%, and search. All right, we have the same list here, but now if you're clicking on the job, you can see all of the job details as you could before, but a much more extensive job description, as well as, you know, here we go with the perks of the company, speaking to what Daniel and Patricia were talking about, responsibilities, the skills. So you really have an in-depth job posting here that you're able to see, and the application button. Most companies will direct you to apply to their company tracking system or their company career page. There are a handful of companies when you click on apply that will be actually directing you to apply through FlexJobs. One other area that's available to FlexJobs members specifically is our Learning Center, where we have a lot of different information in terms of setting yourself up for success in getting your remote career off the ground. We have FlexJobs LinkedIn learning courses. Each week, my team, the career coaches, we offer a 30-minute Q&A session where job seekers who belong to FlexJobs are able to come in a Zoom situation and ask any questions they have about their job search, their resume, interviewing, ageism. We get all sorts of different topics that come up during those Q&As. We also have skills tests, job search emails that will come to you as a member, where you will be emailed new jobs of interest based on the profile that you set up with your membership. We have checklists, we have soft skill courses, and some other member-only discounts and benefits. And speaking of discounts, if you are looking to join FlexJobs, we have a specific discount that we've created for you guys. And with the code Pepperdine, that is going to offer you guys 30% off of our regular membership prices. And our regular prices are $14.95 per month, $29.95 per quarter, or $49.95. $49.95, not $99, $49.95 per year. So you can receive 30% off up to with the subscription that you choose and the code Pepperdine. I know that's a really quick overview, but I wanted to make sure to go through some key points of the available resources on our site.
Tony, thank you so much. That was so helpful because you not only provided resources on how to approach remote work, but also how to navigate the site and how to utilize resources to be successful once you do land that job. So thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you again for being so generous and offering this discount to our community as well. So
yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
So without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass it off to Sophia so she can introduce our last speaker.
Yes, I'd love to introduce Dylan Tercios. He's the Assistant Director for Pepperdine's Alumni Affairs Department for Pep Connect, and he's also a current student for Pepperdine's Grad Studio Business School. So we're super excited to have you here, Dylan.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me back, GSEP. I see a lot of familiar names on the call. It's great to see some friends, engaging here and jamming. It's just a wonderful resource that you all have put together. So I just wanted to take just a few minutes of your time just to show you Pep Connect if you aren't familiar with it already. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly. Let's see if I can. Let's see. I'm just working through some preferences here, it seems. Seems like I cannot share my screen for some reason. Just 1 second. Yeah, I seem to be having some difficulties, but no worries. What we can do is just kind of give a brief overview. If you aren't familiar with Pep Connect, I would encourage you to definitely join as soon as possible. You can find it at connect.pepperdine.edu. And it's a really familiar site. A lot of folks might make the comparison to LinkedIn, but on Pep Connect, not anybody can have a profile. You have to be a Pepperdine student, a Pepperdine alum, faculty, a staff, or a parent of a student or an alum. So that creates a really unique community that you're really not going to find anywhere else online. And since rolling the platform out about 1.5 years ago, we have, thank you, Yaz, we have brought together a community of 7,000 waves. So if you can go to the directory really quickly. Awesome. So right at the top, you can see that there's 6,748 registered users there, and they've all come together from 70 countries around the globe, and they represent and work at almost 5,000 different companies. And some of them are the most recognizable firms and brands across the globe, really. And so this is here for you as a student, as an alum, as a staff member, what have you. And so I just wanted to take a quick moment to look at the directory really quickly. And if we can go over to the right where it says work experience, towards the bottom, let's type in something like Amazon. Go ahead and type in Amazon and just click the one that says Amazon that comes right up. Let's go ahead and Amazon right in the middle. Yeah, that one will work. Something nice and clean. So this is telling us that we have 19 users on the site who have experience at Amazon. And right at the top, we can see Jen and Amazon Recruiter. It'll also pull in folks that have just work experience in general at Amazon. So just to piggyback on what everybody was saying earlier, the importance of networking, I cannot emphasize that enough. And with a tool like Pep Connect for folks that are just uniquely in the Pepperdine community, this is here. This allows you to get that common ground that Dan was calling for earlier, and really strike that genuine chord when you're reaching out to folks, because you're a student, they may be an alum or what have you, but it really allows you to break that ice neatly. So I would definitely encourage you to utilize something like Pep Connect. But there's a variety of ways that you can find jobs. If you go to the jobs board, you'll notice that we have 1,200, almost 1,300 jobs ready for you, right to the jobs. So right at the top, you notice that there are 1,259 jobs. If I was looking, for instance, maybe for a remote position, I'd use the search bar right at the top, and I'd type in something like remote, and let's see how many remote positions come up. So there's about 120 remote positions, everything from internships to you see there, sales, analysts, marketing, things like this. There's just a tremendous amount of opportunities for your personal and your professional growth on Pep Connect, especially as the community is moving online. Things like the directory, where you can search over 125,000 alumni, are going to be really valuable to you. Things like the jobs board, where there's thousands of jobs consistently being updated in here for you, are going to be really valuable to you. Similarly, one last thing I want to point out before my time here is the business directory. The business directory right at the bottom is a great opportunity for our entrepreneur community and our business owners to promote their businesses free of charge. So the businesses that you're seeing here all have been uploaded by alumni or students or staff or faculty who own these businesses. And the system will automatically populate it based on the offers that are being offered around you. So you see, jobs available, 10% savings, technical writers. These are all offers that are being promoted uniquely by our alumni community and our Pep Connect community. So, that was a quick, really brief overview, but I think you can see that, Pep Connect is a much different site than you might have experienced in the past. And the power of Pep Connect is really tucked away kind of into that left menu items and the left bar right there. So I would encourage you to visit us at connect.pepperdine.edu. Make your profile, say hello on the main feed. We would love to know who you're looking to connect with, what your next steps, what you want your next steps to be. And just, go ahead and chime in. We'd look forward to seeing you online. So again, find us at connect.pepperdine.edu. And my name is Dylan. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions and want to find the perfect match. We can definitely help you. Thanks, Yaz.
Great. Thank you so much, Dylan. Appreciate you sharing this resource. So many of our students and alumni don't realize that it's there, but to be able to connect with a potential mentor or be able to promote your business is such a key benefit of being part of this community. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and close out our time today. Okay, so just a reminder that your career services team is here to help. And just a few resources that I wanted to highlight. Handshake, so most of you probably learned about this webinar series through Handshake. That's GSEP's career portal, actually Pepperdine's career portal. And on Handshake, you'll find employment listings, different professional events like the one today, as well as some career resources. So resume tips, samples, networking tips, sample informational interview scripts, all of those are there available for self-help. And finally, we also have appointment sign-up options. So you can schedule a virtual 30 self-marketing consultation if you just want a quick review of your resume, cover letter, or to talk about some industry-specific job search strategies. Or you can set up a 60-minute career counseling appointment, and at this time, they're all provided virtually, but we will also go back eventually to face-to-face appointments as well. And in those career counseling appointments, we can help you clarify your career direction for those who are making a career change or preparing for career advancement. We can also talk about how you might reposition yourself, or going back to what Daniel Kim said, being able to really clarify and articulate your career narrative. One other thing I wanted to point out in Handshake is that they have provided a new site, or have updated their site to provide a list of employers who are just now posting their positions. And so if you want to see who's recently hiring or recently posting their positions, you can go to that site that's listed. And I will also put that for you in the chat so that you have that available as well, and that you can access that too. So I'll go ahead and put that there. And that way you can see in each week which employers are currently hiring, because those are the ones that are recently posting. Also, just a reminder, thanks again to our partners at FlexJobs for providing a 30% discount to our Pepperdine community. You can just type in Pepperdine when you register for a subscription. And if you missed our first Jammy session, which was April 22nd, we've created an online Google Drive for you to access the recording from April 22nd, as well as a resource guide that we shared with a lot of helpful links, both to remote job search sites, to find out more about the economic impact of COVID-19 and some information that you may want to be aware of, as well as some of the LinkedIn learning classes that might be relevant in your career planning. And then we'll also have this recording posted as well so that you can access that again or share it with somebody else. So I'll also make sure that I put in this link in the chat so that you can access our Google Drive after today. Okay. There we go. Okay, so last but not least, we want to let you know that the next JAMA session is on June 3rd. So same time, 12 noon Pacific time. And we have one speaker confirmed so far, Dr. Marcia Chinichian. She's a GSEP alum, the Chief Science Officer for Mindshine, Adjunct Professor at Pepperdine, and is also an organizational consultant. So she'll talk a little bit about what her experience has been like as an entrepreneur during this health crisis. But given her background in psychology, she'll also provide some resources and strategies for helping keep our mental health up and healthy during this time. So you can find out more about that on Handshake or Pep Connect as well too. So thank you again for joining us. We just asked if you would mind just filling out this brief survey. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat as well. So this is just a brief survey to give us a better sense of what type of programming you want to see, but also what you liked about this format and maybe areas that we can improve upon. So we really appreciate your feedback. And the first 5 people to submit the evaluation get free temporary access to JobScan Premium. And if you're not familiar with JobScan Premium allows you to upload your resume, cover letter, and LinkedIn profile. And in addition to job postings that you're applying for, and it gives you feedback to show how well your documents match the job posting and tips for making it, increasing your match rate. It also gives you information on applicant tracking systems so that you can make sure that you are utilizing strategies and keywords that will be picked up by applicant tracking systems, which so many employers are using today. So thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you back in June. Take care.